From Washington, this is VOA News. I'm Steve Norman reporting, topping the news. Egypt targets Islamic State militants. Egyptian warplanes carried out airstrikes early today against the Islamic State group in neighboring Libya, the military said, in retaliation for militants beheading 21 Egyptian Coptic Christians who were kidnapped in Libya. The murders were portrayed as retaliation against what an IS fighter described as the hostile Egyptian church. Coptic Christians make up about 10% of the Christian population in Egypt, the entire Egyptian population, that is, and have suffered discrimination and persecution. The head of the Coptic Church in Melbourne, Australia, Bishop Suriel, reacts.
It was a shock for all of our community, and in particular that today is the first day of Lent as we begin to prepare for a 55-day fast before Easter.
Also in the news, Danish police say they have detained 2 men suspected of helping a gunman who killed 2 people in separate shootings in Copenhagen on Saturday, one at a free speech event, another at Copenhagen's main synagogue. Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt promised to stand by the Jewish community.
Our thoughts goes to the whole of the Jewish community today. They belong in Denmark. They are a strong part of our community, and we will do everything we can to protect the Jewish community in our country.
She said the attacks are a cynical act of terror. Female suicide bomber in Nigeria killed at least 10 people, wounded 30 others. It happened Sunday when she blew herself up at a bus station in Yobe State. No one claimed responsibility, but it occurred in a region where Boko Haram has used young women to carry out its attacks. A senior UN official says he sees hopeful signs of reconciliation starting to emerge in the war-torn Central African Republic. Head of the Africa Bureau at the UN Development Program, Abdoulaye Mar Dieye, tells VOA it is vital for the international community to maintain support for the country's transition toward a more stable, democratic society. Lisa Schlein reports.
The UNDP's Africa Bureau chief has recently returned from a week-long visit to Central African Republic to assess what his and other UN agencies are doing to support the country's fragile peace process. He says great difficulties lie ahead for peace and reconciliation to take root as the population remains traumatized, deeply divided, and mistrustful of the state. Despite this, he says there is a sense of hope and collective willingness to revive the country's shattered communities and economy. The government is pinning its hopes for achieving a more stable, economically viable society on next month's peace-building Bangui Forum. Lisa Schlein for VOA News, Geneva.
Withdrawal of heavy armor from the front lines in Ukraine is set to begin today under terms of the ceasefire deal aimed at ending the fighting in the country's east. Sunday marked the first full day of the ceasefire, which appears largely to have been holding, except in the key railway town of Debaltseve, where most of the fighting has taken place this month. On Sunday, pro-Russia rebels battling Ukrainian forces near the Russian border said the terms of the ceasefire would not apply to that contested town. Elsewhere along the jagged front line separating the two sides, witnesses and officials on both sides Sunday did report relative calm. Chinese court has sentenced a health official in Shanghai to 19 years in prison for accepting bribes and embezzlement. Huang Fenping was convicted of accepting more than $481,000 in bribes and embezzling nearly $225,000. In another case, China's Communist Party dismissed a top political advisor and expelled him from the party following an internal graft investigation. The Central Commission for Discipline Inspection says Su Rong had accepted huge bribes and abused his power. President Xi Jinping has been waging a sweeping campaign against corruption. U.S. Aviation Agency published a draft of new rules that would regulate the use of small commercial drones if approved. The document requires, in part, that the unmanned aircraft stay away from bystanders, only fly during the day, and fly at a maximum speed of 160 kilometers per hour. Get more news at our website, voanews.com.
That's the latest world news from VOA.